Hi guys, I'm out today with Dante, who's one of my lead dogs. He's a male, he's about 4 years old now. And I'm here today to talk about water in regards to dogs and how it's often the forgotten nutrient. Okay, so water as a nutrient serves a whole heap of functions for dogs, such as it regulates temperature, reducing the burden on the kidneys. It also aids in carrying nutrients and oxygen to the cells. Water also aids in getting rid of metabolic waste, acting as a medium for the process to occur. The important thing to recognize regarding the water content of a dog's body is that it's in a constant flux, whereby it's consistently replenishing fluid loss through things like respiration, urination, saliva, all those kind of aspects. So it's constantly, if you like, chasing up the fluid loss that occurs naturally. Now, this whole process is governed by a hormone called vasopressin, which acts when the concentration of the urine increases and the blood volume of the animal decreases. So, when we start talking about the potential impact that the moisture of a diet has on the dog, it really raises several questions. For example, if dogs are fed a dry diet with access to plenty of drinking water, maintain adequate hydration, could it possibly be that dogs that are fed a high moisture diet will consequently have a heightened sense of hydration, potentially being hypohydrated? Another way of looking upon this is that if a wet diet results in optimal hydration of a dog, then consequently would a dry diet result in a dog being hydrated? And the final point we should be looking at is, are both groups of dogs that are fed dry diets and high moisture diets end up adequately hydrated? That is, do the dogs on a dry diet drink enough water to compensate? Now, at present, we don't know the answers to these questions, but they are definitely an area of research that should be looked into in the near future. So, what are the factors that impact on the hydration status of a dog? Well, the obvious one is hot conditions, which will result in the animal drinking more fluid. But perhaps the one that's often overlooked are cold conditions. So, cold conditions can also be an issue for dogs in terms of obtaining optimal hydration. This is because even in cold conditions, the dogs themselves are not going to get enough fluid because it's dry and all the water is frozen. So the need for hydration is actually just as important as the hot conditions. So making sure they do have access to water and potentially feeding them a high moisture diet is going to be beneficial. Now, there's a few other examples that I'm just going to quickly mention. These include physical activity, whereby the dogs are obviously going to be expelling more water, so therefore they're going to require a greater water intake. Disease, certain diseases will require the dogs to consume more fluid. I mean, the obvious one are renal disease, kidney issues. Older dogs, they tend to need to drink more fluids as well. However, the diet itself, the diet the dog is fed, or moreover, the actual macronutrient composition of the diet, is recognized as being the most critical factor in terms of helping a dog maintain a hydration status outside of actually drinking water. Right, so when I talk about the impact that macronutrients have on the hydration status of dogs, this refers to the amount of carbon dioxide that is produced and the amount of oxygen that is consumed. So for dogs that consume a high carbohydrate diet, the ratio of carbon dioxide that's produced and the oxygen that is consumed is the same. Whereas for dogs that are fed a high fat diet, they consume more oxygen and produce less carbon dioxide. So, put simply, folks, carbon dioxide is a byproduct of respiration, and the dogs need to get rid of it. So, the way they do this is by panting and by breathing at a heavier rate. Now, for the dogs that are fed the high carbohydrate diet, like I said, they produce more carbon dioxide. So, they are going to be panting, they're going to be breathing at a heavier rate to get rid of this excess carbon dioxide compared to high-fat diet-fed dogs because they have less carbon dioxide to get rid of. This results in the dogs basically breathing heavier, panting more, like I said, that are fed a high carbohydrate diet. And we know that when they are breathing, they expel water vapor as well. So the dogs that are fed a high carbohydrate diet, because they're panting more to get rid of this byproduct, this carbon dioxide byproduct, are also getting rid of a greater volume of water in the form of water vapor as a consequence of the whole process occurring. What this means for a dog is if it's fed a high carbohydrate diet, this is going to impact on a greater level than dogs which are fed a high-fat diet in terms of aspects such as heat production, the rate at which they're going to be panting and breathing through the nose, and ultimately, crucially, the hydration status of the animal. So looking at hydration strategies, well, the most important one is to feed your dog a high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet in order to reduce the rate at which the animal is going to be panting, its respiration rate. Another good idea is to add water to the diet, to a diet which is high-fat in content, because you're ensuring, you're at least guaranteeing the dog is going to get plenty of fluid for the course of the day. We don't know about the dry diet, but we do know if we're giving the fluid to the dog that's fed a high-fat diet, it is going to definitely at least be consuming sufficient fluid. Now, this is even more important in colder temperatures, like I said, because the water freezes over if the dogs are outside a lot. And by giving them a warm meal with plenty of fluid in, we are guaranteeing they are getting sufficient fluid. Now, if we're thinking specifically about the drinking water, what we can do is warm it up a bit, and we can add nice meaty or umami beefy flavors to that water. So we can do things like add broths, chunks of thawed meat, or a good one I always like to do for my dogs is to add crumbs of freeze-dried meat-based dog foods to it. Stir it up so you get this nice meaty concoction that dogs really love to consume. So by doing that and providing them with sufficient fluid is definitely the best way to go in terms of ensuring your dog is both happy and fully hydrated.